Well, hello. I just thought I'd turn on the camera, set up the easel, do a little watercolor painting. Got an assortment of several brushes and just kind of an idea of a painting. Just kind of from my mind of, kind of a figure standing on a shore of an ocean or a sea. It's not anything I've ever actually seen. Just thought I'd kind of go with this image that was stuck in my brain. Start with the background. Maybe some nice yellows and warm colors in the background sky. Thinking, giving this a sense of nightfall, sunset. Adding a little orange to my palette here. Maybe some pink. It's been a while since I've worked with watercolor. I think it's always good to switch it up a little bit. So as I'm mixing colors, I have some old watercolors here that are previous paintings, but the great thing about watercolors, you add more water and your colors are good to go. Hi, Happy Lux. Thanks for stopping by. A slightly fuller brush to kind of blend these colors in. Like I said, going for a moody kind of sunset sky, lots of colors. And since I don't have a reference photo that I'm working from, because this is just an image that's come into my mind. Just kind of making it up as I go along. And sometimes that is so therapeutic and can be cathartic, in moving forward, in breaching new possibilities. Hi, Mario, or Mario. I've got this old lavender color that's dry in my palette, but I think it's a great sunset color. So I'll kind of blend it in here with these oranges and see what I can make of it. Maybe create some clouds in my moody sunset sky. Resaturating this blue color I have, I think that'll make for some interesting darks and lowlights in my sky. But yeah, like I said, no real concept here, just kind of this vague idea of a figure standing on the shore of a choppy sea. Hi. Thanks for stopping by, Mario. Glad you're here. It's been a little while since I've live streamed. I'm getting into that yellow again. I want that sense of light, as if the sun has just faded over the horizon there. Thanks for talking with me, Mario. I have a tendency to kind of get lost in my work, but I think that I have the computer set up in such a way that I can read messages and communicate as I go. So I will do my best. Going with a slightly wider brush just to get a little wash through here, kind of blend these colors. And then I've got these kind of like mountains lightly sketched in along the horizon line. And I think, oh, this one hasn't even opened. So, oh, this one's magenta. I thought it was a brown. Rather go with a sienna. Maybe mix it in with this dark blue to get kind of that neutral shade that mountains in a distance often have. There we go. Got my fine tip brush to get this edge of mountains here. Maybe a little white in there to get a little gray color. Hello and welcome. I'm going to take a dry brush and soak up some of this wet here so my dark mountain colors don't blend in with my sky. Give that area a moment to dry out a little, soaking up that water. There's a little bleeding there from one color to the next, but I think you can kind of start to see the general idea there. There's a little bit of sky, and then there's a landscape, a dark line of mountains, mixing that dark gray-brown color. Like I said, great thing about watercolors is you can leave them to dry in a palette like this and then reuse your colors later. Just add a little bit of water. Maybe a slightly larger brush for some more color. Not much bigger. But generally I work with acrylic and on a much larger scale. So when I say a slightly larger brush, it's still not very big. But a little lighthouse here in the background. But pretty much as a rule of thumb, I like to work from the background to the foreground. I didn't realize that watercolor in Portuguese is gouache. I'm familiar with that term, but in the States, it's actually gouache is very much like watercolor, but the pigment is much thicker, so it's a more opaque kind of paint than watercolor. So I did not realize that to be true. Interesting fact, Mario. Thank you. Switching it up again for a little blending. Just going to take my color here, kind of blend it in. I feel like perhaps that is not the right brush for that purpose. Here we go, try again. There we go. Better. And welcome to those of you that I did not initially say hello to. Forgive me, I have a tendency to get a little caught up and not see when people are talking to me. There we go. Seeing the variation from sky to mountains in the distance, start to see a little bit of the lighthouse shape up, and then I'll work into these hills and this shoreline. It's coming around this way. Very light markings on my paper, so I don't think you can see them, but they're there. Now for the hills in my background that are just a little bit closer, I'm mixing up this kind of neutral green, kind of a gray green color, sage or almost camouflage color that I'll take right up against this edge to bring out these hills. Lord Beer Klaus, so glad you're here. Yes, to answer your question, Beer Klaus, I am uh, planning on streaming more. Um, and it's one of those ways to share creativity that I've not been very good at. I always get a little nervous and worked up before doing any kind of filming or live stream, but I feel like in order to move forward, it's something I need to do more. So yes, I am planning on streaming more. Thank you for asking. And I understand how life can make one sleepy. So thank you for stopping by, even if it's not for a long time. I appreciate you being here. All right. So this lighthouse is kind of standing on this hill. And I guess my intention with this is as I come closer to the foreground, the colors will become clearer, edges more defined. Just like when you're looking out at the horizon, things further away from you are uh, more neutral in color and not as clear. So as I work from the back to the foreground, everything should get clearer. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that it's picking up on camera and translating as sky to hills. That's good. Thank you, Beer Class. That's not quite. My hope is to get these rocky shore hills in the foreground looking more like stone rather than green. My color wasn't quite different enough, but I think I got it. And like I said at the beginning, I I hope to catch. Yeah, thank you. Beer Class writes, I hope I'll catch you live when I'm not already falling asleep. I hope so too. Thank you. I'm so glad we catch each other when we do. Oh, yeah, but I was saying that when I first started, that this isn't an image that I'm painting from. It's just kind of an image I was holding in my mind of, being on a rocky shore of a vast sea and just kind of standing there. I grew up in a desert, landlocked. I didn't get to see the ocean very often. So this one's going to be a challenge, trying to get water incorporated into this piece because I'm not as familiar with it as I am sky and mountains. Let's see. Stand back here for a moment and contemplate next moves, next colors. Probably want a bit of a sandy gray color. So I'll start with a little bit of peach. Some yellow ochre. And that'll probably blend up as a nice peachy yellow, but perhaps not neutral enough. Because I am going with a kind of sunset theme, so those light neutral or those light sandy colors would kind of take on a little bit of a neutral tinge in the sunset as the darkness approaches. A little neutral right there. Get this shoreline in. Really using a fine brush right now just to get that shoreline in, and then probably go in with a watery brush and really kind of neutralize it and wash it out a little. There we go. Kind of see the shoreline. So this is going to be the sand, and there's a figure sketched right here, and this is all going to be water, dark, moody, hopefully choppy looking waters. Get some of this color moving around. And as I had that nice kind of peachy color here, um, starting in with a little bit of that blue mixed in the background. And as it comes forward, it becomes more of the peach color. Oh, thank you, Mario. Yeah, it's finally starting to look like something, so I'm glad you like it. I enjoy mixing it up every once in a while with watercolors or pencils or something else. Try to get some darker colors in here because I imagine this being the furthest away from our vantage point and it being in shadow and kind of dark. And the nice aspect of watercolor is, as your layers dry, you can go in with the heavier kind of pigment, not super watery, and really define and refine some details. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of saturate this whole shore line area with color. And then I'll go back in after that's dried a bit and work on defining that figure that I've got standing on the shore of these moody waters. And now I'm looking at colors for this water area. Like I said, painting water and oceans is not something that comes naturally because it's not what I saw my whole life. Bye, Beer Class. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you. So I'm looking at blues. Like how deep, how dark do I want this ocean to look? I've really only seen the ocean or a sea just a handful of times over the course of my life. So we'll just kind of wing it. So I've got a lot of blues to choose from. I've got an ultramarine blue, and then I've got a violet, not really blue, but it's violet, and a phthalo blue or a cerulean blue. Now the cerulean blue to me leans a little bit green, which could be good for a moody, choppy body of water. But I really like ultramarine. That might be really pretty against all of these neutrals. So we'll start there. And hopefully, well, that's still a little wet, but I can probably start here, maybe building some wave looking things. Nice blue. Maybe I should go a little neutral and dark though. Kind of implying that the further away from the shore this water is, the darker and deeper it is. Especially around these rock faces. It's gonna be really dark and deep there. Probably some caves under the water. Imagine these waves are moving in ripples towards the shore. See if I can't give myself some lines to delineate here. I looked at lots of bodies of water that are still, and the way they reflect the evening sky and whatnot, but I don't know, this is a new thing altogether. Let's see what I can do here. Hmm. Ah, nice. Thank you. Can almost smell the ocean water. You know, as I imagined this scene, there was that sense of smell and that feel of it. And I guess what I'm trying to capture more accurately than the landscape itself is that feeling of, being next to something so vast and so big, um, at sunset, and the mood of that. um, there's that feeling of loneliness, but there's also all of the sensations of it, of the smell of the sea and the sound of the water as it crashes against the shore and the rocks. So thank you. I'm glad that you can almost smell the ocean. That makes me happy. I'm really not sure how to paint water. I used up all my blue. Get a little more of the ultramarine. Get more of those murky, dark depths up here against the shoreline in the distance. It's starting to look like a shoreline. You know what that means? If I can't nail this shoreline, clearly I need to do more research and I need to study the ocean and visit a shoreline and really capture that movement and that feeling with paint. It's all about practice. More variation in the texture, the color of the sand on my shore here. There's always that aspect of the sand where it's wet and dark. So a little more dark and neutral along my water line here. And if this is, which it is, I can go ahead and go in there and bring out the depth and the shape of that lighthouse. So I think the one and only lighthouse that I have visited over the course of my life was completely white. And then the top part where the light is housed is black from a distance. I don't know that it's actually black, but it looks that way from a distance. So that's how I'll paint it. And I rarely use straight up black color. I just go with browns and purples and blues kind of mixed together to get a nice neutral, very dark brown. So what I've got here is a couple of shades of brown and a blue that I'll mix almost to like an inky consistency to get a really dark neutral. And I've got a very fine tip brush. So now that this part is dry, I can really bring out some detail. Probably not quite as fine a brush as I actually need, but and we'll just imagine that there's a little window there as one would climb up the stairs of this lighthouse. I'm going to go in with a little bit watered out paint and just do an edge here. Kind of establish some kind of shadow. Give this white just a little bit of depth. Rinse my brush and blend some of that in. There we go. So it's still a white lighthouse in the distance, you know, warning those out at sea about the shore and the rocks. But it's not just a pure white, empty space. It's got a little depth, a little significance in this field of color. Oh, thank you for all of the positive reinforcement and emojis, Mario. Always appreciated. Let's see. I'm struggling with the idea of this figure that I had wanted to put in the foreground. I don't know. I'm a little worried now that it's just going to get lost. So what I'll do, while I have this nice neutral, dark color, is I'm going to go into the sky and bring out some of these clouds while things dry out, and maybe a little more dark in here in this lighthouse. Picking up some of that nice violet color, lavender color that I had, and incorporating that with some of the darks makes a nice moody, cloudy, potentially stormy sky. And sometimes it's just about letting watercolor do what watercolor does, because it blends so beautifully with other colors, and the way it just bleeds into itself and other things makes some really lovely effects and beautiful depth. Hmm. All right, I'm going to try for this figure. I hope I'm not sorry. Head, shoulders. It looks like a little alien or EB. Hi, honey. Welcome. So last time I was at the beach, it was particularly windy, crazy windy, and there was so much sand blowing, and the wind was blowing so hard that it looked like I was on a different planet. So I'm trying to make this little figure kind of wind-swept hair blowing back, maybe some kind of jacket or something blowing away. And then, of course, let's build up the ground here that this figure stands on. Oh, thank you, Mario. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you see the beauty of it and that you appreciate my work and appreciate this work. I really had no idea how this was going to turn out when I started. It was just an image I was kind of holding in my mind. So I really appreciate you being here and sticking through the whole thing. But I think that's about all I can do with this for right now. I may go in later with possibly some acrylic paint and work on these white areas, these crusts. But more likely I'll probably just leave this as it is, as an exercise of an image that I was holding in my mind and be satisfied with how it turned out. So I appreciate everybody being here. And like I said earlier in the stream, I do plan on live streaming more. So thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for more. Thanks. Bye.